Hey everyone, Matt here on the Vinyl Head UK channel, and it is time again. It's that time already. It's that time of week. Can you believe it? Download Festival Memories 2018. We're catching up. We're catching up to modern day already. I say it every week. I can't believe how quickly we've gone through from 2004 to 2018 already. I hope you've enjoyed this series. I've really enjoyed doing this one. We've got 18 and then we've got 19, and then you're gonna have to wait until 2022 for the next festival memory video in this series. It's crazy. But we're going to jump into 2018. It was a good year. The sun was out. We didn't have rain. It was a good time. We had some decent headliners, including a set that I never personally thought I would ever get the chance to see. You can probably guess who it is. An epic 3-hour headline set. But let's get into it. As always, I say this every time, you probably know it by now, this is trying to drag as much out of my memory as possible. It's got a little bit easier as we've got onto more recent downloads compared to, 2008 and 9 and 4 and every other one. But I have got my list of bands. As always, I've got the lineup next to me so I can remember exactly who played across all the stages that weekend. But let's look, as we always do, at our headliners. So, returning. They'd already headlined once before, but returning to headline for the second time were Avenged Sevenfold. They jumped up into that headliner slot. It obviously worked out. They were rebooked to come in and headline once again, opening night at Donington. So that was Avenged Sevenfold. Saturday, Guns N' Roses. Not Axl and Friends that we saw in 2006 or whenever it was. This was pretty much the real deal. Axl / Duff together again. Who would have thunk it to see Axl and Slash together again as Guns N' Roses playing? It was definitely something, as I say, I never thought I would ever get to see. As I say, 2006, I was there for that up and down set of Axl and Friends calling themselves Guns N' Roses, but this felt like the real deal. There was a lot of pinching moments going on. I had to keep going like that. Am I really seeing Axl and Slash together as Guns N' Roses? Amazing. We'll get on to that. Sunday, a new headliner, but kind of not a new headliner at the same time. Someone who had been to Donington several times before, but never doing his solo material. And that, of course, was the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy frickin' Osbourne. As I say, he'd been at Download a few times with Sabbath. But yeah, Download debut of the solo material and solo project, I guess, of Ozzy Osbourne. Back with Zakk Wylde as well, which was pretty cool seeing Zakk up there playing with Ozzy. So that was our three headliners: Avenged, Guns N' Roses, and Ozzy Osbourne. Not bad if you ask me. I was happy with that. Looking across the rest of the weekend at our other headliners. So again, we had 4 stages. The stage names had not changed from the year before. So we had main stage, we had the Zippo Encore stage as second stage. Third stage was the Avalanche stage. And then the Dogtooth stage made up the 4th stage. So again, no acoustic stage, anything like that. Just for 4 stages. Avenged on the Friday the 8th of June. Across the board, second stage, You, Me at 6. So I'm pretty sure I've headlined that stage prior. They always seem to go up against big metal acts, kind of countering the metal playing on main. a chance for people not so much into metal, because remember, it's not a metal festival. It's kind of evolved into more than a hard rock metal festival. We're seeing a lot of diversity with acts playing at Download these days. So if you're not into metal, you know, there's alternatives. You Me at 6, Bad Religion, we're headlining first if you're into your punk. Pretty sure Bad Religion were punk. I'm not really massively into my punk, so I know of these bands, but don't directly know these bands. But there's an alternative again. And then 4th stage was Tesseract, which would have been pretty cool. Go and see those guys. Saturday, Guns N' Roses, as I talked about, Maine. Headlining second was Parkway Drive, a band I've talked about a little bit. If you've seen my Let's Talk About the Future of Festival headliner video, talk about Parkway Drive a little bit in that. A band that have already headlined Bloodstock. They've done big slots at Wacken and Howlfest and Graspop and festivals like that. Someone maybe one day could get a headline slot on Maine, or definitely push up to a sub-headliner slot. They brought it. I didn't go and see them personally. Nothing was going to draw me away from Guns N' Roses, but they brought that full production, which we'll come on to a little bit later. Neck Deep were headlining on 3rd. And then 4th, bit more metal for you as well, Thy Art Is Murder. That would have been pretty cool to see those guys. As I say, as much as I like my metal, it's Guns N' Roses with Axl and Slash. I'm not going to miss that. No way. So sorry, Parkway, and sorry, Thy Art, but Guns N' Roses for me. And then Sunday, we had Ozzy Osbourne. Rise Against were headlining second. Again, I'm pretty sure Rise Against have done that stage headlining before in the past. Again, a bit like You, Me and 6. They seem to come up against these big metal artists, whether it's Maiden or Metallica or Ozzy in this case. The Hives were back, headlining 3rd. One of the first bands I ever got to see at Download on that first day on Maine. And here they were back doing 3rd stage headline slot. And then Baroness closing up 4th stage. So that is our headliners for the 3 days across for 4 stages. And as always, let's dive on in. Friday, kicking off Maine, we saw Boston Manor. Wait, that's not metalcore. What's going on? I always say this every week. It seems that a metalcore band is opening up main stage on that Friday. But Boston Manor, no. A little bit of pop punk. So maybe Andy Coppin couldn't find a metalcore band to come in and do that slot. But it was a bit of a change, a bit of pop punk. Not really my thing. Couldn't tell you really much about them. We watched them because I don't think really there was anything on the other stages that I really wanted to see. Looking just now, there would have been someone on 3rd stage, had I known about them at the time, who I definitely, probably would have gone to have seen. But we'll come on to those. But Boston Manor were opening up Maine. Following Boston Manor were Avatar. Now, Avatar seem to be doing good things in the States. They seem to be getting bigger in the States. The States is more getting into these European-style festivals. Obviously, when you think of US festivals, you think of the Warped Tour or Ozfest. Festivals that would roll through city after city after city, you know, stupidly long tours. If you ever saw the dates back in the day for Ozfest and Warped Tour, they were huge tours. Massive. So many stops on the tours. And they would be festivals. You'd have a main and you'd have 2nd stage and this, that and the other. But they would just jump from city to city. The Americans, or North America as in general, not forgetting Canada, are more so getting into this style of European festival. Finally, it's took them a while, but they're getting there, and they're having these big 3-day festivals where you camp, or you know, you've got the different stages. And when you see these, you often see Avatar in not a bad spot. So they're definitely getting some traction going in the US. This wasn't a bad set. It's very theatrical, you know, with sort of the costumes and the windmilling. It was very sort of theatrical feel to it. Music's not bad. It's not a band that I'd probably jump out and go and buy their material or really listen to all that much on streaming sites, things like that. But it wasn't a bad show for what it was. You know, early on a Friday morning, it woke the crowd up. They actually got a pretty decent crowd, to be honest. They drew a good few people in. But yeah, like I say, very theatrical. I don't really know their stuff. I'm not really familiar with song titles, anything like that. But we checked them out. I think we'd seen them before previously, or a snippet of them at least in a prior download. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad at all. Following Avatar, I jumped on over to the second stage, my first trip to the second stage that weekend, to go and see Andrew WK. And I wasn't the only one to go and do that. There was a lot of people there for Andrew WK. One of the biggest crowds that I saw all weekend over on second. Now, I'd seen Andrew WK, bit of nostalgia really. I'd seen him a few years before in, might have been 16 or 17. He was headlining on the third stage. I can't remember what year it was. Whatever year it was. He was headlining on the third stage. And it was packed. We only saw half the set because we were going to see whoever was headlining main. So we didn't get, you know, didn't get to see Party Hard or We Want Fun or anything like that, which is a shame, you know. But the atmosphere in that tent was electric. The crowd were ready to party, no pun intended. But that was the same on the second stage. A lot of people were there to party that day. Andrew WK and his band of misfits, they all look kind of misfitty, if that's the right word. I may have just made a word up there. They open with She Is Beautiful, which instantly gets the crowd going. Everyone knows that one. We got We Want Fun. We got Party Hard with this like 90-second countdown, which was really weird. Andrew WK counted down from like 90 for some reason, and then we went into it, and you know, it just brought the life to the crowd completely. It was a good set. I think I would have preferred seeing all of that fully on the third stage. I think the atmosphere, although the atmosphere was good on second, I think the atmosphere in third, if I'd stayed and watched all of that, would have been amazing. But it was good. I'm glad I finally got to see Party Hard and We Want Fun and all that live. But yeah, definitely kind of a band of misfits. Odd bunch. But then, yeah, is what it is. After Andy WK, I stuck around to see a little bit of Jonathan Davis. He is doing his solo stuff, which is very away from Korn. If you're expecting to hear like solo material that sounds like Korn, you won't. And I saw a little bit of it. It's very, as I say, very different. I did not realise that Ray Luzier was drumming for Jonathan Davis, which was a very welcome surprise. He's one of my favourite drummers. I think that man's phenomenal with Korn. So it's a kind of a welcome little surprise to see Ray Luzier, but the music wasn't really doing it for me. I really like Korn. I like seeing Jonathan Davis sing Korn material. Not really a big fan of his solo stuff. You know, loads of different worldy elements to it and different instruments and instrumentation to it. Just not my thing. So I watched a bit. I was really happy to see Ray Luzier drum a little bit. Just like I say, it was a welcome surprise. And then kind of came away from it. I didn't want to sort of tarnish seeing Korn again and think back to hearing this stuff, this solo stuff. and kind of, you know, just remember that. I want to enjoy Korn again when I see them, which we will next year when they're back on main stage. But yeah, not really my thing was his solo stuff. From there, though, went across to Third Stage, my first trip to Third Stage that weekend, to see the mighty Cancer Bats, who have played many, many times at Download now. The 2012 festival where they ended up getting kind of postponed. They were meant to play, I think, second on main stage, and with the rain and the mud and the wind and everything, they got brought off that, and Fear Factory opened the stage instead. But they ended up playing like 2-3 times across the weekend. So yeah, veterans almost, you could say, of Download are Cancer Bats. And they brought it again. I love seeing bands like this on Third Stage because I think you get a lot of atmosphere. I don't always think you get masses of atmosphere at main other than maybe headliner or, you know, at least sub-headliner, because you get a lot of people there who kind of camp out for sub-headliner or headliner itself. Not really fans of certain bands, so, you know, I think you lose a bit of atmosphere. Second's not bad for atmosphere. Sometimes you get some campers there for headline or whatever again. People kind of passing by, checking out what's going on. Whereas third and fourth, you get people, I think, there for that specific band. And so you get, it's almost like their own gig, you know. All the fans come just for that band. And that's how it was like for Cancer Bats. It was a great atmosphere in there. I vaguely remember him saying something about, maybe it was an anniversary of Hail Destroyer. Not sure. I'm not sure on that one. But yeah, I mean, Hail Destroyer, they played, from what I remember, kind of in the middle of a set. We got Sabotage, Bricks and Mortar closing. It was a great set, a lot of energy in there. Like I said, I love seeing bands like that, like, you know, Cancer Bats, Every Time I Die. Seeing Code Orange in there. Seeing some really great bands, Gojira. And it's always a blast seeing them in that marquee, in that tent. I love it. I'm hoping, I mean, 2022's lineup on Third Stage looks okay. Fourth Stage looks pretty good, but Third Stage looks okay. There's nothing really that's catching my eye all that much at the moment, but we will see in further announcements. Yes, that was Cancer Bats. We went back to Maine at this point to go and see Bullet for My Valentine, who sub-headlining. Bullet have sort of been everywhere across the lineup over the years. Whether they can boost into a main stage headliners, we'll see. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But here they were. I think at that point they were touring a lot with Avenged Sevenfold anyway, so it's kind of like the tour came to Download. They're doing an American tour together. So it kind of made sense having Bullet and Avenged together, same day. Two bands that know each other very well. I went and checked it out. I mentioned before, my friend Jason is the drummer now for Bullet. Oh, he's been with them for quite a while now, a number of years. It's always great to see him drum. Seen that man drum hundreds of times, sat next to him hundreds of times from him, but it's always good. And especially on the bigger stage. Really proud and pleased to see him up there with Bullet doing these huge shows, huge festivals. I don't know if Matt Tuck wasn't feeling his best. But some of the screams, I don't think were there. I've talked about Bullet before with their bass player. So newish. He's not that new really, a bit like Jason. But that man can scream and his vocals are flawless, and he brings a new energy. Him and Jason bring a new energy into Bullet. But yeah, I don't know if Matt Tuck's vocals were quite there that day. It wasn't a bad set. It seems they have some momentum currently with a new album, and the tracks that have come off this latest album coming out seem pretty intense, kind of old Bullet sound to it. So I think they could push through with some momentum on this album, but I don't think it was as there on that last one. I'm not a huge Bullet fan. I'm just kind of gauging on comments I've read and what people have said to me and various things like that. Following Bullet were Avenged, their second headline slot on Main. So they headlined back in whatever year it was, 14 I think it was. Here they were back 4 years later doing another headline slot. It was what it was, really. I used to be a big Avenged fan and kind of came away from them a little bit, which happens, you know. There's some bands I kind of don't listen to so much and lose a little bit of track on, and for whatever reason, you know, other bands come along I prefer, or they go into a musical direction I'm not as keen on. I liked Waking the Fallen, and then I like City of Evil. City of Evil is a great album. Really love that album. But yeah, kind of lost the way. I liked the track Nightmare. But after that, no, don't really know anything. The production wasn't quite as big as that first headline show that they did. I saw, I think, all of this set. So when they headlined first time, I was watching Opeth, I think. I went and saw Opeth headline third, so I only caught the back end of the set. So this was my first full experience watching Avenged Sevenfold headline, and it was okay. You know, for someone who kind of digs City of Evil and Waking the Fallen, anything sort of newer off the last couple of albums kind of went over me a little bit. It was okay. Matt Shadow's voice again was not quite there, I don't think. Whether it was ill or voice was just done in from the tour, I don't know. Two Matts, and both Matt's vocals I don't think were quite there that day. I think it was quite an extensive tour at this point, so it just might have been blowing out the vocals a little bit for both of those guys from those two bands. But, you know, it wasn't bad. It wasn't the worst headliner set that I'd seen. It wasn't the best. It was kind of, you know, okay. I enjoyed it for what it was. That was that. Rest of the day, or rest of the lineup that day. Let's have a little look, shall we? So, I'm going to go back and mention who was playing main stage that I didn't see. So the full lineup that day on Main was Boston Manor, Avatar, Dragon Force coming back to Main. I know they'd done some smaller slots on second and third, so they were back playing Main. Marmozets, so good to see a bit of British music, and new British music as well, might I stress. Not, you know, say British music, we could look at Maiden and Priest and Sabbath and Ozzy and whatever, but newer British music with Marmozets being there, which was pretty cool to see. Volbeat, who are steadily becoming bigger and bigger in the UK. They're obviously huge in Europe, and they are definitely getting bigger in the UK. Probably one of the highest slots that they've done, maybe, at Download. And then Bullet and Avenged. Second stage, we had Miss May I, who I think were opening Main maybe the previous year or so. CKY back again, Andrew WK, Jonathan Davis. Hell is for Heroes, who I believe had reformed maybe. Hence the high position that they had on second stage. I'm pretty sure they were back after reforming. And then You Me at 6. The third stage, now that band that I mentioned earlier that I definitely would have gone to have seen over Boston Manor or Avatar was Employed to Serve. I've recently done a vinyl appreciation video on their latest record, which I love. And yeah, man, seeing them on the third stage, that would have been amazing. I'm gutted that I didn't go and see that. I didn't really know them at that point. I've only kind of really got into them in the last few months. But I'm definitely sure that they will be back. They, of course, did the pilot a couple months back. So, yeah, I can't believe that they won't be back. New album coming out soon. So, yeah, they'll be back, definitely. Dead, Stray from the Path, Cantabats, The Bronx, and Bad Religion. Wrapping up third stage. Fourth stage, Savage Messiah, Igor Amur, Napalm Death on fourth. Not even headlining. That's quite a deal, I think. Tesseract were headlining, but yeah, Napalm Death not headlining on fourth. Maybe that should have been the other way round. Napalm Death, big band, lot of influence. Still going strong, those Brummy boys. Yeah, I'm not sure. Who knows? That was Friday, though. Let's jump on to Saturday. I started Saturday on the Zippo Encore stage, so the second stage, watching Powerflow, who I guess you could call them a supergroup. So Senen Reyes from Cypress Hill, Billy from Biohazard, Christian from Fear Factory. So, you know, some pretty decent artists there coming together. They were up against the Pink Slips on Main, so which do have a bit of buzz around them, but yeah, I wanted to get a bit of heaviness, so I went and checked out Powerflow. They're okay, middle of the road, nothing new, nothing too memorable for me. Yeah, just about that really. From there on to, where do we go? Just having a look. Went to Main Stage to see Whiskey Myers, who are kind of, call them country, yeah, kind of country rock act. I was meant to see them, funnily enough, support the Cadillac 3 on one of their tours. And they got stuck on the M6 somewhere, which I'm sure every person in Britain has been stuck on at some point. And they didn't make the gig. So Cadillac 3 just played an extended set, which I was happy about because I love Cadillac 3. But here they were on Main. The main thing I remember is they had, I don't know if he was percussion or keyboard player or maybe a bit of both, but this guy had so much energy and he kind of looked out of place because it was kind of chilled country rock vibe, southern vibe, you know. And then this guy just going crazy, headbanging and so much energy at the back. He was happy to be alive and very happy to be at Donington that day, let me tell you. Monster Truck were on after, a band that it took me a couple of times, but I really started liking Monster Truck. Seen them a couple of times at downloads, seen them on a support for whoever it was. Yeah, I really like Monster Truck. They are a good, they don't do anything different. You know, they do stuff that we've all heard before, but they do it really well. They open with Don't Tell Me How to Live. I think they went into She's a Witch. They did Evolution, which is a real great track off the latest record. Sweet Mountain River. I think they closed on that, or definitely near the end. But they're a solid band. I really love their material. I think it's 3 albums they've put out now, and I love all 3 of them. I could listen to those happily. Stick them on, and I'd be so happy with that. But it took me a couple of times, a bit like Blackstone Cherry. I didn't really initially think all that much of Blackstone Cherry when I saw them live the first couple of times. And then just something clicked like that. And I was like, do you know what? I really like this band. And the rest is history of Blackstone. It's probably the band I've seen most live. But yeah, I'm really happy seeing Monster Truck. It's a band, you know, if you like your sort of harder rock, with all your sort of classic rock influences, go and check them out. Worth a listen. I'm glad they're getting those main stage slots. I really am. And they've had some, they've had like Dee Snider guesting on some of their tracks. You know, they're getting known people on the stuff. You know, they've got these big names that are fans of the band. So it's a good future, I think, for Monster Truck. Go and check them out. We didn't really watch anyone following that because there wasn't really all that much that floated my boat, in all honesty. So we had a bit of a gap. The bands that were on after Monster Truck, so the Struts, who, no, it's a different band I'm thinking of. I thought the Struts were linked to Guns N' Roses, but I think I'm thinking of somebody else. Didn't see them. The Temperance Movement, band that had come back. They'd played main stage before. Didn't do that much for me first time round. Wasn't overly fussed about seeing them again. Thunder playing their 9,000th and 4th farewell gig, farewell tour. Those guys have had more farewell tours than I've had hot dinners. But here they were again. So some British acts on there, which was kind of cool to see. I think the Struts are English. Maybe it's the pink slips that have something to do with Guns N' Roses. I don't know. I'm not sure. Who knows? But yeah, the Struts, Temperance Movement, and Thunder. Didn't catch any of those. The next band we did see was a band I've just spoke about, Black Stone Cherry, doing probably their biggest slot to date at Download. They'd done 2 headline slots on the second stage, both going against Slipknot, which is tough for me because I love Slipknot and I love Black Stone Cherry. But Slipknot wins it for me because Black Stone Cherry do a lot of stuff in the UK. They seem to constantly be touring the UK. They're back again next month. It's going to be my first post-COVID, post-lockdown gig. Be the first gig I've seen since Slipknot, funnily enough, back in January 2020. Yeah. So a long time coming. So they tour a lot, whereas obviously Slipknot, we don't get as much in the UK. So Slipknot wins it for me. But this was the biggest slot for Black Stone Cherry to date. A sub-headline slot on main. Only Guns N' Roses with Slash and Axl and Duff were above them. So that's a pretty big thing for Black Stone Cherry. Now, as I've said earlier, seen Black Stone Cherry a lot. Probably the band I've seen most live, up against maybe Killswitch Engage. It was an odd set list. They seemed to crank through a lot of the well-known tracks to start with, like Blind Man, White Trash Millionaire, Blame It on the Boom Boom, Rain Wizard, Me and Mary Jane. Those tracks were all pretty early in the set list, or, you know, in the middle. The last part of the set list was quite odd, I found. Tired of the Rain, Cheaper to Drink Alone, and then I think it was Family Tree, which they closed with. Family Tree was the album cycle they were on, so naturally they were going to be playing material from that album. But I thought those last 3 closing tracks were kind of odd, you know. This was a huge audience they were playing for, because a lot of people would have been getting in a decent slot, getting there early and ready for Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses probably had near enough, you know, 90,000 people once the other bands had finished, because I think a lot of people would have wanted to see Guns N' Roses, hell of a lot of day tickets being sold. So Black Stone Cherry had this huge crowd who may not necessarily have been Black Stone Cherry fans. They may have heard of the band, they may have seen them in passing before, or, you know some of the tracks. But this essentially was their chance to play, I guess you could call it a greatest hits set. Now, they did a surprise set in the 3rd stage a few years prior, like 2014, I think it was. And yes, they only had like half an hour, but it was every well-known track of theirs. So like I say, the Rain Wizards, the Blame It on the Boom Booms, the Lonely Trains, the Me and Mary Janes, all of those, White Trash Millionaire. It was all the hits. Whereas they did all the hits, but, you know, they kind of got some odd choices in the set list. I know I was watching with some of my friends, and when they closed out with those last 3 tracks, we kind of looked at each other, and my friends had seen Black Stone Cherry many times like me before. And we were all like scratching our head, like that was a really random choice to be closing out with those songs. But, you know, that was their choice, their tour, their set, they can do what they want. But at least we did still get those, you know, those big tracks. And it was great to see a band that I've followed for a while now, that I've seen in, you know, little clubs, and then worked up to bigger academies, and then worked up to, you know, like kind of larger theatre-sized venues, and then go up into arenas, and then, you know, doing these sub-headline slots to Guns N' Roses. Of course, they're doing the Albert Hall, which every band seems to be doing the Albert Hall. Remember when it was like kind of unique that a band from our world, from the rock or metal world, would play the Royal Albert Hall in London? It used to be very rare, where it seems nowadays you look at a tour and so many bands are doing the Albert, Alter Bridge, and Opeth, Blackstone Cherry. They all seem to be having a go at the Albert Hall, which is cool. It's a cool venue. Devin Townsend's another one. It's a cool venue. It's a cool thing to say you've done, cool place to say you've played. But yeah, Blackstone Cherry. Guns N' Roses. Talked a lot about these guys already. 3 hours, 3 whole hours of Guns N' Roses with Axl Slash and Duff McKagan. Wow. It was magic. It was magic. All 3 hours. There was little bits where it dragged just a little bit. Like when we were doing instrumental pieces and Slash was going off doing his soloing. But overall, it was fantastic. Amazing set. Now, Axl's vocals aren't as strong as they were when he was younger. You know, he listened to Appetite of Destruction. Don't expect Axl's vocals to be quite at that stage. But he was pulling out some real great vocal moments. There was, you know, the odd moment during the set where it was like Appetite for Destruction, Axl. Like that voice came out of him and you were like, oh my God, wow. You know, you shut your eyes and you were back in the early 90s, late 80s. You know, he still pulled a few of those out. He had a lot of costume changes. You know, it's like being at the theatre when they change every other song. That was a bit like Axl. He was going through a lot of costume changes. But I mean, they, like I say, 3 hours, it was 30 odd. It must have been around about 30 odd songs, including those like extended jams and stuff. They opened with It's So Easy. They meant business opening with that. Mr. Brownstone after. You know, we had, I mean, the bit that I pinched myself, I think the first, other than when I first saw them and saw Axl and Slash standing next to each other, I think the moment where I went, is this real? Was when they went into Welcome to the Jungle. You know where you are? You're in Darlington, baby. Axl stood there screaming that, and there's Slash to his side, and they're having fun. They're enjoying themselves together. Duff McKagan's there as well, just to throw in for good measure. And you're like, oh, this is amazing. This is what you live for. This is why I love music, for things like this. To see them back together playing those songs for us. And yeah, Welcome to the Jungle. It's like this. And the crowd is just bouncing. Every word is being sung. We got a lot of covers as well. We got Sliver by Velvet Revolver. We got Black Hole Sun, I think they did, by Soundgarden, which was obviously honouring Chris Cornell. We got some Misfits. We got some Pink Floyd thrown in there as well. Obviously stuff like Knocking on Heaven's Door, which most people probably think is a Guns N' Roses track at times. So we got a lot of covers. I think we got the Who track as well. We got Rocket Queen, You Could Be Mine, Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City, of course. It was amazing. Just like I say, 3 whole hours. Not a single Axl tantrum in sight either. We go back to 2006. Axl stormed off. He slipped over. He stormed off. The bass player swung his bass at a cameraman. He hated it. did Axl for the first half. He grew on him and he admitted, you know, I didn't like it earlier, but I'm having fun now. Sebastian Bach came and joined us for My Michelle. And it swung. That's what I meant earlier by it was a roller coaster. It was up and down, that Guns N' Roses, or Axl and Friends set, shall I say. Let's not call it Guns N' Roses. But this, they were on when they were due to come on. There was no tantrums. There was no Axl wobblers. It was just Guns N' Roses back playing this vast array of classic hard rock songs. Pinch myself. It was so good. Let me tell you, it was so good. I hope you were there to see it. If you weren't, you missed out. Okay. Second stage. So we had Von Herzen Brothers, Lawnmower Death, getting a nice slot there on second stage. Corrosion of Conformity, good band. L7, Asking Alexandria, back once again playing second. Baby Metal. Baby Metal usually we find on main stage doing a second stage sub-headliner slot. Baby Metal announced this week they're disappearing. Don't know what's happening there. It feels like 10 years of Baby Metal and they're celebrating by vanishing into thin air. So who knows? I don't know what's happening. And then, of course, Parkway Drive headlining. Now, I've said before about Parkway, I'm not a huge fan. Not really listened to them all that much. But I was intrigued to check out some footage after the festival, seeing what went down, see what it was like. They brought the full production. A lot of pyro. It was kind of like an Australian version of a Rammstein show. The spinning drum kit, you know, the full works, the full production, which was cool. I don't know if they did that cool little entrance that they do at other shows. I saw them do footage of it at Bloodstock and Wacken and Grass Pop, where they come through the crowd with like these big torch bearers on, like big torch on fire. These big dudes carrying them, and then Parkway in the middle walking through the crowd and then hopping the barrier and starting that show off. That was pretty cool, something I've not seen before. So kudos to those guys doing something unique there. But yeah, I mean, the full works. This is a band very much on the up. If they haven't done an arena tour in the UK, I can see that coming down the line. Maybe, as I've said before, they might be a future main stage headliner. We will have to wait and see. But I think they're one of those bands in the bag that could potentially go and do that. That would be pretty cool, I think, to see a band like that go up into a headline slot, especially with that production value. You know, like I say, huge production on that second stage headliner slot. Third stage, we had bands like Rolo Tomasi, The Fever, Mayday Parade, Neck Deep. Definitely a theme with some of these bands once again on that third stage. Fourth stage, Shapes, Massive Wagons. Here, a lot of people talk about Massive Wagons. They're very popular. Not a band I've really checked out. Maybe I need to, with all these people talking so much about them. Knocked Loose, and then Thy Art Is Murder. So a pretty heavy way to end that fourth stage. Jump on to Sunday now. I saw a lot of bands on the Sunday. I think this was the day I probably saw the most bands across the stages. Started on main with Inglorious. Now, I've talked about Inglorious before. I liked the first album. I did. I really did. Nothing too different. Stuff we kind of heard before. But I liked it. What I didn't like was the singer, who I got his name wrong. So I apologise on that. Nathan Jones was what I called him. I'm a big Luton Town football fan. Nathan Jones is the Luton manager, so that name gets stuck in my head. It's Nathan James. So I apologise for that, Nathan. I got your name wrong. What I won't apologise is your ego, though. This is what I said before. I liked Inglorious. I watched some press and I watched some interviews with Nathan and stuff he put out on the Inglorious Facebook pages, and it was so cringy with the ego, and it put me so much off the band. It was a shame. I didn't really want to listen to them again. I went and checked him out because, you know, I still liked the music of the songs and that, but I just didn't like him. And it's a shame because he's got such a good voice. The second album was out at this point, so they played a mix off first and second. Obviously, I knew the first album stuff, didn't really know the second album, didn't really care for it. Yeah, kind of ruined it, mate. I'm sorry. From there, we went with about 50,000 other people, it felt like, to the second stage for a I was there moment, shall we say. A bit like that Trivium set back in 2005. Greta Van Fleet, a band I've talked about in my vinyl appreciation videos. First time I'd seen them live. I think a lot of people there that day had never seen them live yet up until that point. Early slot second. They'd been doing huge things around the world. So much hype around the band at this point. And as I say, they got a huge crowd on second stage. They did like 4 songs, extended jams. But I was stood with my good friends Toby and Gina, who I've mentioned on the channel, so shout out to those guys. They finished Greta Van Fleet. And I looked at Toby, and Toby looked back at me, and he just went, wow. Wow. And that was the best way to sum it up. The Led Zeppelin comparisons are there. They're there on record. They're there live. You can't get away from that. Yes, okay, on the latest album, they're trying to steer away. They went a bit more Queen-like on some of the videos and whatnot. But you couldn't get away from that Zeppelin sound and the mannerisms and everything, seeing them live. It was my first time seeing him, as I say. Josh was very entrancing. He has a very unique presence on stage. The way he just deadly pierces out, staring at the crowd. It's very unique, his approach as a frontman, how his mannerisms on stage are. But it's very intriguing to watch. He was looking like an extra from The Hobbit as well, of what he was wearing and stuff. But it was really good. They were so good. And a lot of people around me at the end were just like, that was just wow. Really fantastic band who have a big future. Let's see what they do on the next couple of albums. But yeah, maybe again, could we throw them out as a future main stage headliner? It's one I haven't talked about before. Even on my future of festival headliner video. It's not a band I really talked about. But let's see what the trajectory sends them. Whether they coast, whether they go up. But that day there was a lot of hype and they lived up to that hype. It was good to see. Jump back onto main stage for a bit of heavy metal. Cradle of Filth are up. Again, I'm going to go there. Good to see extreme metal on the main stage. Yes, a band that have played many times on main stage at Donington. A band that a lot of people are familiar with. It's very pantomime, especially Danny Filth. It's very pantomime evil. You look at them and you think, are they really as evil as they look? You see some of the Norwegian bands, or Finnish, or Swedish, you know, from that extreme metal scene, and you think, yeah, you're the real deal. Oh yeah, you're going to burn down a church or something in a minute. You look at Danny Filth and his merry men in Cradle of Filth, and you have to say, and women, of course, and you have to say, are you really as evil as you look? And I don't think they are. I think it is very pantomime. But they're solid. Cradle of Filth are solid, and they've had a very extensive career. They've put out a lot of good material, and they're still going strong. Love him or hate him, he's a character, is Danny Filth. All 3'2" of him. But he is a character, and, you know, they do bring a good presence, and they do have good tracks, good songs. And they keep putting out good songs. They have a little wobble now and again, but yeah, it's solid. And again, extreme metal, I always say it, it's great to see on the main stage. Following Cradle of Filth were Hatebreed, who is like a party, a hardcore party, but it's like a party. Jamie Jester is a phenomenal frontman. You can't doubt that. And riffs and breakdowns galore in Hatebreed's music. And yeah, it's just a party. They're always going to have, not long in terms of time, but the amount of tracks is always going to be quite extensive because they're quite short tracks. Our Hatebreed, you know, looking at 2-minute tracks for a lot of them. So you can pack a lot into a 40-minute set with Hatebreed. But yeah, Jamie Jasta is a phenomenal frontman. He can control a crowd. It was 2 times we saw him that day. He made a guest appearance later on in the day with someone. But yeah, you know, he's so good. He's so good at what they do. And it was a really solid set again. It was pretty spread across a lot of their albums. They weren't really focusing on one album. Looking down the barrel of today, Proven, I Will Be Heard, Destroy Everything. Solid tracks being played throughout. It was really good set once again. Following Hatebreed, we disappeared from Maine and went over to second. So we didn't see these bands, but following Hatebreed were In This Moment, Black Veil Brides, coming back to do main stage for the first time in a while, I think it was. And then Shinedown again, who had done a previous slot around that sort of 3rd down, 4th down position. Again, a band that are really making waves in the UK. Huge in the States, a bit like I was talking about with Avatar. But they're getting there in the UK, and the love in the UK for Shinedown is definitely growing. But we didn't see those bands because we went back to second to see, for the first time in Donington history, after 35 years or so, finally we got Creator, which was really cool to see. By now, you know I love my thrash. It's probably my favourite subgenre of metal. So to get one of the big 3, maybe 4, you could argue, of German thrash metal in Creator coming and playing was a pretty big deal. You know, I'd seen him at Bloodstock, seen him at Wacken, which was amazing seeing the German thrash gods at Wacken. But it was a big deal, I thought, him playing Download. And it was a good set. A lot of old school metal guys, a lot of old school thrash guys turned up for this set, as you'd expect them to. They had a bit of production, some pyro, some, not confetti, but like streamers being fired out. The CO2. Yeah, it was a good set. We got some solid new material there on the Gods of Violence tour. Creator in recent years have put out a string of about 4 or 5 really solid albums. They're not losing their touch in their later years. They are producing material that is so strong. A bit like Testament, putting out incredible stuff. So even if you got a set list filled with material from the last 4 or 5 albums, you're gonna have a good Creator set list. You really are. We got Pleasure to Kill. It was the only track they did play off that record, which is a shame because everybody loves their old school Creator as much as they love their more modern Creator. And it was so good to see Creator at Donington playing a good set on the second stage. Got nice and close down the front, maybe even been on the barrier, which is another thing I love about second stage. You know, you can get a really good spot really anywhere for bands on second stage. We were a little bit further back for Greta Van Fleet just because half of Donington, half of the East Midlands turned up to see Greta Van Fleet, so we were a little bit further back, but we got a really good spot for Creator and the following band as well. But yeah, I was really happy, especially because I don't do that much in the UK. Same with all those German bands, Sodom and Destruction and Tankard. I don't remember any time Tankard have played the UK off the top of my head. We very rarely get Destruction anymore because they weren't doing good ticket sales on the UK tours. Sodom, you know, will do maybe one-off show in London or Manchester or Birmingham and then maybe throw in, say, Bloodstock. But that's really it for the German bands, which is a shame. You know, it's a real shame we don't get them more often in the UK. So, gonna make the most of Creator coming and playing in the UK and playing it Download. Body Count were on after, so again, stayed where I was. It was good to see those guys back. I'd seen them on third stage. They were bumped up onto second. Ice-T can control a crowd. He's humorous as well. They've got some really good, solid, hardcore tracks with it. They opened with Raining Blood into Postmortem, which already bumped up the energy. Especially, I think that was quite a wise move because they were following on Creator. So they may have still had a bit of a Creator crowd there. So opening up with, you know, one of the ultimate thrash songs with Raining Blood and then into Postmortem, which is a sonic thrash assault in its own, was probably a smart move. I believe they were doing that anyway across the festival run. But I still think it was a smart move doing it after Creator anyway. If you like Creator, you're probably going to like Slayer and vice versa. Manslaughter, No Lives Matter. They finished with Cop Killer, which is when they brought on Jamie Jasta. So obviously an influence on Hatebreed and Jamie Jasta. Because Body Count have been around a while. I know they reformed and they've done 2 or 3 albums since reforming. But, you know, back in the early 90s, they were putting out material. So they were quite an influence on, you know, people like Jamie Jasta and Hatebreed and whatnot. But yeah, he's funny as Ice-T. But the music backs it up as well. He brought his little daughter on at the end. And it was a fun show. Just like when I saw him before on first stage. I enjoyed it. It was good. Really good. Following on was Thrice, but we didn't see them. But we did come back to second to see one of the bands of the festival. One of the tightest bands. Who... the best way I can describe their set was mesmerizingly heavy. It was that heavy that it literally mesmerized me. And that, of course, is Meshuggah. Mind-blowing how incredible that band is live. When you listen to their albums and their studio work, it is so good. But then to almost have a copycat identical sound out there in a live environment, a bit like Gojira and Opeth, I guess, as well. I could throw those guys in. But Rational Gaze, Pravus, Demiurge closing with, I mean, that riff, the dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. I honestly just, it felt like a trance because it's that heaviness, but then you get that, I don't even know how to describe it, that guitar sort of floating on top of that heavy, chunky riffs, and it just sucks you in, and it just almost puts you in a mesmerizing trance, just how heavy it is. There's only ever been a few bands that have kind of got me in that state where I'm just like, just have no idea what's going on around me. I have no idea who stood next to me. I'm just absolutely 110% focused on that music and the sound. And there's only ever been a few bands that have sort of got me in that state. Obviously, Meshuggah at that show won. Opeth did it to me at one of the Bloodstocks, whichever it was. And then Tool, who we're going to talk about next week. Their headlining show at the last proper download. But yeah, it just sucks you in and just... I don't know how to describe it or sort of explain how it makes you feel, but you just feel lost, and it's incredible. And they are so tight and so heavy and just exceptional musicians. Go and see Meshuggah. You will not be disappointed, honestly. Who do we see? We went back to Maine after Meshuggah to see Marilyn Manson. Again, we're not going to talk about anything that's going on with Mr. Manson at the moment. But again, it was a show that disappointed me a little bit. I still have yet to really see Manson, I guess, in his prime. He sounded breathless. He sounded just, I don't know, not great. Danny Filth randomly appeared at the side of a stage during The Beautiful People and screamed something you couldn't really work out. And then later in the song, Marilyn Manson tried to match those Danny Filth screams. It was all very weird. It was a good set list. I'll give him that. This Is a New Shit, Disposable Teens, Mob Scene, The Dope Show, Sweet Dreams, Beautiful People, as I say. It was a decent set list. He just wasn't with it. Drinks or drugs, I don't know, but it just seemed a bit of a shambles, and it's just not the Marilyn Manson that I want to see. That was that. Headliner time, though. And a show that leading up to it, I was thinking, is this going to be disappointing? Is it going to be kind of wish you'd stop there type of thing? But I got to give it to him. Ozzy Osbourne brought it that night. And a lot of people were going away saying how good a show Ozzy put on that night, how good Ozzy actually was. Okay, his vocals aren't really where they were back in the day. And he comes on and he's almost a caricature of himself. You know, when he starts off sort of bumbling about the stage, doing his Ozzy things, and then kicks in to, I think it was Bark at the Moon. And as soon as we kicked into Bark at the Moon and we got past that little caricature of Ozzy, it was so good a show. Zakk Wylde's back playing with Ozzy, which was a big thumbs up, big positive. Zack's incredible. I think Zack's best stuff is with Ozzy. I'd go that over Black Label Society any day. Nothing wrong with Black Label, but I prefer seeing Zakk Wylde with Ozzy. I think that's really where his guitar work shines. You know, he's going up against Randy Rhoads, for God's sake. You know, especially with Crazy Train and stuff like that. He's holding his own up against Randy Rhoads. But it was good. We got some Sabbath. We got Fairies Wear Boots, which I love. We got War Pigs. Of course, they closed on Paranoid. We got Bark at the Moon, Crazy Train, Shot in the Dark, Mr. Crowley, No More Tears. I love that track. That's heavy. And Ozzy was really good. And it was, I hate to say it, was surprising how good he was. Which I hate saying that because I love Ozzy. I love Sabbath. But it was surprising just how good he was and how good the band was. And it was really enjoyable. It was a great way to close out Donington. A great way to close out Download that year. You know, seeing one of the great rock stars in our lifetime doing his solo stuff. I'd seen him before in Birmingham doing solo, but I think I enjoyed this show more than the first time I saw him. And yeah, it was great. Really, really great seeing Ozzy. Really good show. And that closed off who I saw. Let's have a quick look at who else played. As I mentioned, those bands on main. We had Turbo Negro. Dead Cross, which was Mike Patton and Dave Lombardo playing. I did want to go and see those guys. I don't know why I didn't end up seeing them. They were on before Creator and Body Count, so I don't know why I didn't end up seeing them. Would have been cool to see Dave Lombardo and cool to see Mike Patton. Thrice, Alexis on Fire coming back. That was pretty cool. And then Rise Against. Third stage, Puppy, Milk Teeth, Jamie Lenman, so some nice British acts in there. Less Than Jake, and then the Hives. The fourth stage catches my eye for the last four artists. So All Them Witches, Merca, I think I pronounced that right, excuse me if I haven't, Zeal and Ardor, and then Baroness. We got some heavy stuff going on, and quite out there stuff going on. Especially with like Zeal and Ardor, some really out there stuff, kind of extreme, but yeah, cool stuff, definitely. And then Baroness headlining, that was a real cool way to end the fourth stage, those four artists. I wouldn't mind seeing any of those, in all honesty. And that was Download 2018. We've got one more to go until we caught up. I didn't go to the pilot, so I'm not going to do an episode on those. I gave my thoughts on the pilot and the lineup of the pilot, so go back and check those out if you haven't already. Thank you, though, for tuning in to Download 2018 Memories. As I say, one more, 2019 to go, and then we've caught up. We've got to wait till next year then for the next episode after Download 2022. Hopefully it will go ahead. It's all looking good so far, but let's just see. Let's take one day at a time on it. Be safe, of course. We want these events to be happening. But thank you very much. It's been a bit of a sad week in our world, in the rock and metal world. We've lost some very iconic, inspirational people. Joey Jordison and Dusty Hill, for me. We lost the vocalist of Metal Church as well. So it's not been a great week. So it's nice to come and talk about good things and good memories and happy times, happy vibes, great bands. Always go and check these artists out because, you know, we're learning it. You never know when it might not be again that you get to see these guys. So Joey Jordison was definitely a big influence on me as a kid. As a drummer, I would furiously play along to Slipknot as a kid. So learning that Joey had passed last week was very sad to hear. Very, very sad. No age at all. And then the following day, Dusty Hill. Seen ZZ Top a couple of times live. Always enjoyed them. Like their stuff. So yeah, you know, very sad hearing about these things. So as I say, it's nice to come and chat about happy times, happy memories, great music, great bands. Don't forget to go and subscribe, hit that like button, hit the bell for all notifications. More Violent Appreciation videos coming up. Download 2019 next week, same time, Monday at 8. Until then, though, I will see you all soon. Take care.